Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to tonight's all-new episode of Late Night Q&A with ZodWriter. I know it's been a while since I've done one of these, and I thought who better to bring on for my first time back in a while than Kongzar Russ.
What's up, man? Thanks for having me on. Sorry I had to bail the other day, but I'm glad we are able to reschedule after.
No, that's okay. You know what? I was a little bummed, and I went and I did a little bit of a live talking about the home arcade and community and stuff, and I couldn't wait. I knew we would eventually get to it.
Yeah.
I know everybody has a busy schedule and everything is all over the place. So I'm just glad we were finally able to do this, because I've been wanting to get you on for one of these since I had Bobby Vu on all those, seems like a lifetime ago. I mean, I've been trying to cover all the home arcade, all the prominent home arcade YouTubers. I mean, and I consider you to be a prominent home arcade YouTuber. I watch your content all the time. I see all the things that you do, all the things you've been involved in, and I want to thank you for that, because you've been very helpful. Honestly, in this hobby is one of those things where it's not real easy for people to get into it, because you see a lot of the options of the home arcades that are available and all the different things you can do. And, if it wasn't for you and Bobby, I mean, the whole modding scene, I think, owes you guys a debt of gratitude because of the way that you promote modding, and you look at modding as almost as important as the home arcade genre itself. And I just love that. I love that, the way you guys look at it. So I guess right off the bat, I want to ask you, how did you get started with all of this? Just in general, what's your basic story about arcades from when you were young to where you are now? Not that you're not still young, but I mean, how did you get all into all this stuff?
It's like, hey, tell me about yourself.
Yeah,
I just start, That's cool. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate even just the opportunity to chat for a little bit. And I pop in time to time to see all your other content too. So it's interesting the type of folks that you have on. You have a lot of movie stuff. You have some home arcade things too. So I'm always one to support other content creators if anybody asked me to do something. So that's why I felt super bad the other day when I had to cancel, because I wanted to commit to it. But yeah, I'm glad that we're able to connect. So the short story of kind of my arcade nostalgia came from, we all kind of grew up in the 80s, 90s in arcades, and my parents owned a mom and pop video store, right? One of the ones that just had cassette VHS tapes, and it was a decent business at the time, but we know the further history of what happened with any of those video rental stores. And at some point in the mid 90s, we started getting coin op machines. We had 4 of them in our video store, and we were right across the street from a middle school. So after school, there would be a liquor store next door where people would get their candy, and then they would come to our place to play games. And this was the height of Street Fighter 2, Mortal Kombat. There was a Neo Geo. And so I just remember the rotating games, and I got to play them because if I wanted to play the games, I had to work at the store, and I get paid in quarters. And the way you would get paid are the quarters, I would have to mark them with a permanent marker so that the operator would know which one is mine. And then from there, I was able to play, tons of games. That's where I built my arcade nostalgia, was from my video store, working there. Went to many other arcades and things, like when I was like in high school and into college. I went to UCLA and spent many of my college early freshman days in the arcade in Ackerman Union. I was part of the DDR club on campus too. So there was a phase of DDR. And then from there, the home arcade scene to now where I'm at, right? Flash forward to the arcade nostalgia of owning a Street Fighter 2 cabinet was what drew me in. I remember seeing the Street Fighter 2 cabinet for sale on Amazon on a lightning deal for like $175, and that, like, I can own an arcade for that cheap. Holy crap, I know nothing about this product at all. I didn't watch any content creators. I knew nothing about it. So I bought it on a cold whim, got it, and was like, okay, this is okay. But then immediately, to your point, I saw the ETA Prime video about putting a Raspberry Pi in a Street Fighter 2. And that's like the modding, Bible for the original. If anybody wanted to get started with modding, an Arcade 1-Up, that was the video. That's probably the highest watched Arcade 1-Up mod video of all time. I don't think there's any other video that has over a million.
Yeah, ETA Prime has got a huge landscape covered, for real.
So I think many of us at the time, not knowing anything, followed his mod like to a T, bought the freaking step bit, bought all the parts and things. But like, you know, I didn't know stuff and how to mod and do any of that stuff. A lot of it was trial and error. So I started tinkering, and that part of the hobby was always my favorite part, even though it was frustrating to get some things working when you're modding. But figuring it out was a very passionate project to just say, hey, I want to play these things.
Figuring it out is the rewarding part of the experience, isn't it though? When you're tinkering and you're doing all this and then you finally get it, you're like, it is.
That's me messing around with this crap to see if I can make this controller work with the thing. And people ask me all the time my background, are like, are you an engineer? Are you a coder? Or things like that. I was like, no, I work for a nonprofit and I have just a, you know, desire to tinker with stuff and see how things work. And so my YouTube career started with a tutorial. It was the Star Wars mod. It was me modding the Star Wars yoke and getting it to work with the PC. It was the very first video I ever did. And obviously I started watching some content and I saw people do tutorials and I'm like, this isn't how I would like it explained to somebody if I was watching it for the first time. So I put myself in the steps of like somebody who was brand new to this and how could I break it down. And so I did a video that I would have wanted to watch, and that's how we kind of start making content, right? It's like I would want to watch this. And that like 30-minute video took me like so long to make. And I was like, man, I can't do YouTube. This is too much work. Right. And then so like my channel was very much like, you know, I didn't have my face on a channel or anything. It was just a hands-only tutorial. I was doing videos maybe once every 2 months or so. And it was tutorial based and it was all about Star Wars and tinkering other things. But Bobby Vu and Quack and a few other guys from this like modding community. The Arcade One Up and Modding group was my first Facebook group that I joined that I really enjoyed. And I do think, to your point, I think the modding community helped with the growth of the original Arcade One Up like boom. During the pandemic when that hit, modders made the cabs that they wanted because they didn't know what was going to come out, right? All the ones of people making your custom Mortal Kombat cabinets, you know, other custom skin Donkey Kongs, like, you know, the arcade graphics guys, you know, they made a ton and a killing off of people wanting to make arcades that looked like, you know, what they wanted to. So that scene absolutely contributed to the boom. And it's the reason why people were so obsessed with sales. Because then from here, you could buy a $50 to $150 cabinet, invest a couple hundred in it now to what you wanted to and still feel good about it, versus buying, you know, a full price $500 cab and then still modding it. Then like people kind of are antsy about doing it. But if it's a $50, you know, the height of the modding community, I feel like was the $50 Star Wars cabs. Do you remember that?
Yes.
At one point. So that was a fun time in the community. So from there, once I started making more content, my channel really took off once I discovered live streams. My first live stream ever was me looking at Glenn's yoke, the GRS yoke. And there I was opening it up to be able to just figure out like if it works. And I was like super nervous. I didn't know what the camera angles were. And I didn't really think I could do live streams. But I did the Outrun unboxing video, which was really fun. Got a ton of people watching that. And people enjoyed my content from there from a live perspective. And that really got me thinking, if I could commit an hour a week talking about a subject while tinkering, and that's where my Thursday show really came about. It was me either working on a project I love myself or talking to other modders, because the respect I have, you know, you talk about me and Bobby Vu, I still think I'm like a low tier modder. You know, I'm like,
no. Okay. I'll let you finish that point, but then I really have to cut you off because I got to ask you about something, and I think that maybe you might even know what I'm about to ask you about. But go ahead.
All right. Well, I'm just saying that there's a lot of talented people out there that I like. When I bring them onto my show, I'm blown away at the level of stuff that they do that I can never do. And then there's some people that, you know, really like the work that I do, but you know, I feel like I'm just a big trial and error guy, and have been able to explain things. And in the meantime, we've been covering home arcade the last 3 years, and here we are. So that's my story. Hopefully that made sense to people.
It's a great story though. It's wonderful and it makes sense. I mean, because I know how, like, when I think about it all, and if honestly, I mean, if it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be as into it as I am. You guys ushered me in completely, all the tinkering and stuff you guys were doing. But that leads me to one of the main things, one of your main projects I want to ask you about that I've always loved. My whole life growing up, I was always the biggest Macross fan.
Oh yeah,
Macross is one of my all-time favorite things. I mean, even not just Mac, not just and I'm not just talking Robotech. I'm talking the original Super
Japanese.
Dimensional Fortress
Oh hell yeah,
Macross. Okay,
I love
this is
that.
some of the greatest stuff of all time. You built a Macross cab.
That I did.
And I have to ask you about it because to me, that was one of the most fascinating projects I ever seen you showcase. And I got so excited, like the little kid in me jumped out, like, oh my God, look at what he's done here. And I was sitting here thinking, my God, the yoke and everything you did with it. So I got to ask you, man, what was the inspiration for that? Like, what made you decide just, wow, I'm gonna make a Macross cabinet? Because that's something we'll never get. That's something that no matter what, you won't see it from Arcade 1-Up or any other company. I mean, maybe if you and Bobby Vu started an arcade company, and this is something that I actually thought about. I was talking to Bobby about that not too long ago, and I was like, I would love to see you at Beacon start a company, like for real, because you guys
we had a lot of ideas
so
and
ideas. It's incredible.
So Bobby's fun to be creative with, but yeah, I love that you're passionate about Macross because that was my first big nerdy hobby actually. So before I got into arcade, I was a toy geek and Macross was my main hobby. So if you want to throw this on the screen, there's a group called Macross Fan Central. If you're not a part of it, definitely join it, right? So I post here occasionally, and I also used to host the largest fan Macross convention in the United States.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah. So it's Super Dimension Convention, and here me bringing my arcade, and like I brought an iArcade and MVSX last year to the con, right? But this is the Macross cab that you're talking. Oh, by the way, look at this. This is a giant ass SDF1 that was made by Foam Core.
Beautiful.
That's like super freaking cool. So I was there last couple years, but this is what you're talking about. So I made a Macross arcade 1-Up machine out of a Gen 1. I want to say Space Invaders. That's why it has the yellow trim.
It looks like a Street Fighter. I mean, a Space Invaders with the yellow trim.
So I got it for $150 from Walmart, and I was like, sweet, I'm gonna turn this into a Macross cabinet. And the inspiration for it is, as you can tell, I have a ton of toys in my background, and I discovered some of the arcade shmup versions of Macross. And I never played the original arcade versions like in the arcade in the 80s, but there's 3 shmups that are super good. It's Macross Plus. There's a Macross version, the vertical shooter, right? They're like really great shoot 'em ups. Like I would say better than Raiden, but
they even did. Hey, listen, they even did Macross 2.
They did. They have a Macross,
which I gave them respect for, because I don't know about you, Kong, but I love Macross 2. Macross 2 is one of my favorites.
Some people
not only do I love Macross 2, but I bought when they released the Japanese Blu-ray box set. I imported that, and then I bought the soundtracks. Yeah,
that's fun.
I love it. It's fantastic stuff, but
I liked it too.
It's not better. It's not better than the original, and it's definitely not canon. I look at it as an alternate timeline.
I like the mech designs in there too. The VF2S was a really fun design as well. So you can see it there. It's at the bottom left right corner. So the 3 arcade games I wanted to make an arcade cabinet was based on those 3 games. So Super Dimension Fortress, Macross Plus, and the Macross 2 shooter games. Those 3 games were like, I wanted an arcade cabinet that had those 3 games in it. So the artwork that you see there, I commissioned my good friend Exo, who there was this old forums back in the day called Macross World. I don't know if you ever remember like the Macross World forums.
I do remember
Exo
the forums.
was the asshole moderator from that forum. Sorry, I don't think he's ever watching this, but like he became a good friend of mine. We found us local guys, and the reason why I got into Macross more was because I found local guys in the Los Angeles area that were more nerdy than me, that had hookups to buy them in big bulk group buys. And so I was like, instead of importing them, I could join them and get them for cheap. And then that's how this like collection blew up. But and so he's also a graphic designer. He designed it for me. I thought this was amazing. The twin sticks, I was like, oh, this is really cool to design. a mecha thing with virtual on. And then there was this guy, oh my God, there's this guy in the community I have to talk about. And I don't think he's ever watching this again. But there's a guy named Derek D, who used to hang out in the Facebook groups. If you're in the chat and you remember who Derek D is, put a 1 in the chat if you guys know who Derek D is. But he used to be a moderator in one of the Arcade 1-Up Facebook groups, super nerd, but was also a big Gundam fan and Macross fan. And so I had him help me build the playlist for this. And like, he's a big Gundam guy, so he put all the Gundam games on here. And then I had all the Macross games on here as well. And he like did everything. And so for his tribute to the cabinet, because Macross fans hate Gundam, if you most do.
Most of them do. Now I try to split down the middle because I'm a fan. I'm an old school Gundam fan. A lot of the newer Gundam series kind of put me, because like after Endless Waltz, I kind of tapered off a little bit because there was just so much. But Macross is the same way. It has a huge content library of stuff to go through.
You can see the Gundam launchbox build that's in here, and I have one Gundam sticker on the back. And when I showed, I don't think it's on here, but I took a picture of it and posted it in the group, and they're like, "Blasphemy! I can't believe you put that."
You're showing how the two fandoms can essentially be unified by showing all this love for Macross.
This is all my stuff. Look at this closet collection.
Just doing it like that, man. I mean, that's incredible. Now, what sticks did you use here? They look like
these are Thrustmasters, right? Okay. And so they're Thrustmaster. They're made for PC space sims, and so they have like true left and right joysticks on it. And so when I wanted to play 1-player, 2-player, I was like, oh, it'd be cool to play like a shoot 'em up with an actual like flight stick. In theory, it sounds good, but it's actually really hard to play. And the reason why is like if you look at an arcade joystick, the throw of a stick is very short. So you have very like short movements to go up, down, left, right. Oh, C-Mart the Entertainer is here, dude. He's my other Macross buddy. I got him into the Macross group, and he started buying stuff from Fred. Fred Souza, he's our news drug dealer. We buy everything from Fred Sue now. If you want to buy a Macross toy, get it from Fred Sue. But playing a shmup with that giant HOTA stick is really tough because it's hard to do really like
right. It's not like you're playing Wing Commander.
Where
it's a flight sim. You're actually like you could have put like the PC Engine Macross game on there where you're just it's just a shooter, so you're not really. But I mean, I understand going for authenticity like that. I mean, come on, the colors, everything. It's perfect. Back. Oh my God,
this is my PC. Here's the top. There's that little Gundam sticker I was talking about. So that's my tribute to Derek D. But I did.
I was thinking you were gonna put. I was thinking you were gonna put the PlayStation.
I do. I have the PlayStation games on here.
Is it in there?
They're all on there. They're all on there. I have the PlayStation games, the PSP versions on there. Every Macross game ever is on this game currently. Like at the time I made this, but it's more of a showpiece, as you can like more than actually like me playing it. I rarely ever turn it on to play it, but I just think it was fun project to like mess around with the bezel, the art. I love. This is something I'll never get rid of. But I mean, like I made the little panel with the little sliding buttons. Those things slide up and down actually. And I was obsessed with actually making those buttons all actually work.
Just like the intro in Macross, with the little sliders. Oh my God. Yeah.
Everything works there. So I mean, like that was a fun little.
This is what I'm talking about. This is when we say we're going for authenticity. This is what I mean. Like when we were all having the discussion about like Dragon's Lair and people wanted authenticity. Remember that argument?
Yeah.
This here is what I'm talking about.
But this isn't authentic. But
it's so much attention to detail.
It's attention to detail, but it's not a real thing of anything though.
Right. So no, I know, but it's an original. It's an original. So and you went for authenticity. You put stuff in there that if you're a fan of the show, if you're a fan of any of the movies or the TV, you will recognize all of these things, the buttons and the sliders and and the artwork. I mean, it's beautiful.
It was a lot of fun. And so, I take it to the con every year because I think it's like a fun, unique thing. And then from there, that was fun. Thanks I haven't talked about that in a long time, but it's been
I actually could not wait to talk to you about it because I'm such a huge Macross fan, and I never.
Do you have any Macross toys?
So no, I don't have any of the
No,
toys, man.
none.
I
Is
collect
there
all the shows and
everything else?
the the box sets and all that. I have tons of that stuff. But
If there's
I
one
never
that you need to
collect
get though,
the
there's one.
figures.
If you could ever get one, just one, right? Because there's so many different variations you get.
Claudia Grant. No, but
No, it's the VF1 Bandai 148DX. They're like the best Macross toy that have ever been made. They're like so good. Like it's worth it to get one if you're a fan.
awesome,
But yeah.
I've been, and to me it's just one of those things, like you see something like what you did as being so original and so unique, and it just speaks to the inner child of anybody who's ever been a fan of that, and in that way. And I can't imagine the amount of time that it took you. I mean, it had to have been a project that went on forever. I mean, you
Yeah, they all kind of slowly come together, and like once I had the artwork and the design for stuff, the modding process, especially when you're building a custom arcade, yeah, Derek D was the Dragon's Lair petition guy for sure. He was the
Mhm.
guy that made the original petition for Arcade One Up Dragon's Lair. He used to moderate a lot of stuff in the group, so he kind of disappeared after a while. But yeah, I never had an end goal of mine of what it was going to look like. You just kind of start building something, you kind of get a new idea, and you kind of tinker and change it. So I would say from start to finish, it was probably about a 2-month project once I started it, especially with the control panel, and all the internals and things. So yeah, it's cool. And then on that, Bobby Vu actually helped out a little bit on that cabinet too. So the 20-inch monitor mod is a Bobby Vu monitor, as well as the riser. He made back when Arcade One Up risers were scarce. One of the first things I ever did when I met Bobby, I met him because I wanted a custom riser. So he was making custom risers. So I was like, all right. So yeah, I remember the first time going to Bobby's house. That was interesting.
Oh my God,
He's interesting cat.
you guys are just like, I mean, that's an incredible piece of work. And I could say this, man, as a Macross fan, it's a masterpiece. So it's great. I'm glad you have it in your collection, and you've said it's something that you'll never get rid of, because I was afraid I was going to ask you about it and you were going to say, oh, I sold that or something. I was just like, man, that's so.
I don't think so. I love the art so much, and that means a lot because it's a custom artwork that my friend did for me. So even my logo, my Kong Zeros logo, he designed it for me too. So Exo's one of my good friends, and so we've been friends for a really long time. So that's a pretty special cabinet, and nobody else has one. Like nobody has a Macross cabinet like that. So.
Yeah. Well, that's how I feel about the Mortal Kombat bar top that Bobby Vu built for me. I feel the same way. It's like it's something it's so special. It's one of one, and there's never gonna be another one quite like it. So you look at that and say, man, if I get rid of all my arcades, I'm keeping that one, because that one is truly special. Now, so is that what you would say about the Macross cab? If you had to get rid of all your arcade cabinets for some bizarre circumstance, would you keep that one because of your connection to it?
That's a tough one. I would say it'd have to be a toss-up between that one and my point blank shooter cap that I made. Like from a pure arcade standpoint, the point blank cabinet that I made, then looking at it, is like the most gorgeous piece of artwork. Like that actually is authentic to home arcade. Like it's just like, and nobody has that cabinet design 100%. Like I know that well much too. Like Encore, who's the graphic design person that works with Bobby Vu, made that and recreated that. I've seen that side panel artwork replicated a couple of different times, but the front panel and everything, nobody has that in a 3/4 scale version with that artwork. So it's just, I'm looking at it right now. It's freaking gorgeous, right? It's just between that shooter cab or the Macross cabinet, those would be the two that I would like.
Man, I'm geeking out right now. I'm so excited for these cabs you're talking about. So I gotta ask you then, out of all your cabinets, what's your favorite that you own? What's like would you consider to be your crown jewel cabinet? Because I can honestly say for me, it's the one Bobby built for me, because it's so personal and it has so much value out of all the ones that I have. But
the real pinball machines don't count, right? It's like arcade only.
Yeah, like arcade only. I'll ask you about pinball machines later, because you guys may yet be able to convince me to get a pinball machine, because as of right now, I'm not into pinball like that. But
so I would say there's a difference between like favorite like mod versus thing that I play the most. Because like the funny thing about mods is because I love doing it just because I love to see if I could do it, but it's not like I play it all the time. For example, like the Star Wars mod, like I did it, it's one of my favorites, but I don't ever play it all the time. I modded the Tron cabinet because I could. I don't play it all the time. It looks great. I play the hell out of Marvel vs. Capcom. That's like probably my number one arcade game of all time.
Marvel vs. Capcom or Marvel vs. Capcom 2?
Marvel's Capcom 1. The Marvel vs. Capcom 1 cabinet, I have more hours on that cabinet than all my cabinets combined. So I would say my favorite arcade 1-up product of all time is MVC 1 is my number one, just personally, because I've put so much time into it. The community is freaking amazing. The arcade 1-up Marvel vs. Capcom community is still strong today. The Discord, Footy Laughs Discord for the online arcade, everybody's on there. That's anybody. You can get matches. Everybody says GGs to each other. You can watch each other. I can log in right now. There'd be 5 matches there. It's just a really solid community. So I loved the Marvel vs. Capcom community, and it actually forced me to get better at the game that I considered I thought I was good at, but I finally labbed enough to feel like competitive enough in a game. So I know I'm decent at fighting games, have basics, but that game, I was top, I think my highest point was maybe like top 25. And it'd be like, and that's in the arcade 1-up scene, right? Like not of all time, but like top 25 for any game. I was like, hey, that's pretty freaking cool. So I would say that's my favorite arcade. Like I have a hard time thinking about, I should get rid of it because I had the MVC2 version that has the same game in it, but I love the MVC1 game specifically. So I think that's my favorite.
Okay, and so then that's out of your arcade 1-up, but out of all the cabs that you have, and even the ones that aren't arcade 1-up,
the custom ones that I've made,
yeah,
oh. I think the Point Blank one is probably like my favorite project that I put together. Out of all the projects I've done, I think the Point Blank one is really, I get giddy when I look at that when I finally put it together. Right. The guns are real Namco guns, the pedals, like. Yeah, it's a really fun cabinet. Yeah.
I look at everything in terms of, ones like that, like the modding, the personal elements, because you spend your time on it and you devote so much of yourself to it. It has to resonate with you more than a cabinet that you can just walk into a store and buy or order online. If you had a hand in it, it's going to mean something to you, and that's what's important. I mean, sure. I mean, looking, because I look at all the, I look at all the companies, as a whole, and I say to myself, man, I've been sitting here getting excited because of all, the news that came out about AtGames, about them doing the, them getting a Killer Instinct license and doing the 4K, versions of the ALU. Do you have an ALU?
I do, but not a traditional one. So the back in the day story is that I have an ALU panel that Bobby Vu traded me so I could mod his Star Wars cabinet for him. So we did a little swap, and that's how we kind of pay each other back. So he mod for this for me. What do you want? You want that ALU? Yeah, you can take that. No problem, man. I got you. Yeah. And so like I would just like pick up stuff and we would mod stuff for each other. So I had the panel. And so in like a pedestal, but I don't have the actual. I
have the Legends Gamer, the big
Gamer Pro,
the Gamer Pro with the, and I have it connected to, and it's so, just, I'll say it, it's just so convenient because with, coin ops and all these options that you have to be able to play stuff. And then the fact that they're expanding and allowing you to add games and, again, the pinball stuff, and then the, if you even have a little bit of an interest. I mean, even me, I'm not really a big pinball guy, but even, because of the AtGames ecosystem, I was interested and got a few of the Tato tables, because, it's like, okay, cool. I'll play. They're fun, and it is nice. It is nice. But you are into pinball as well.
Yeah.
So so
virtual pinball got me into real pinball. Absolutely. So
is that what happens?
Yeah.
It's the virtual pinball. So it's just like with the arcades where you start getting into, you become like, Retro Ralph, where you start off in the, the 3/4 scale, and now you're buying real arcade cabinets and rehabbing them and doing all this stuff. What's the deal with pinball? What happened, man?
Yeah. So, I mean, the first thing I did with my arcade one-up pinball, the day I got it, I modded it already. I put a back glass screen in it and I put a PC in it. And I was like, I want to play the other pinball tables and what's there. This is all before Mystery Coder existed with all the other stuff there. But what's my most expensive modded cab? It's probably the point blank cabinet because of the guns and all the materials inside of it. Because the guns alone
are those Sinden guns or are those?
No, they're real Namco guns that have been modded with Gunfire. So they're actual real Time Crisis guns. And then so they retail from the modding guy that makes it about $600 each. So just the guns alone are like $1,200. And then there's real pedals, which are like $200-$300 each, I think. And then the cabinet, the artwork, and everything. So yeah, it's probably my most expensive one. But you're asking about virtual pinball. So yeah, I got into virtual pinball, started learning it. And I was a casual pinball player too for a long time. Like the first time I ever played virtual pinball was on my Star Wars cabinet because I put pinball in there because I was like, hey, I just want to play pinball on anything. So I used to flip around and not care about scores or anything. It wasn't until I started joining competitive online Steam tournaments through the At Games Legends system, or like I think MCAP and a couple other guys were hosting these online tournaments. I was like, oh, there's a whole community of like, there's a reason to actually hit stuff and aim for targets to get higher scores. So the competitive nature of playing in a tournament is what got me more into pinball, because I had to learn the rules at that point. I wasn't just flipping around for a high score for myself. I wanted to beat the next person. I wanted to be able to get my name into the top whatever, because I'm competitive that way. And so that really spurred and gave me a greater appreciation for what pinball is. It's not a game that you just flip around randomly and try to survive, which is what my whole experience was growing up. There's like a story to it. There's actually modes and there's certain targets so my appreciation kept growing and growing for it. And then eventually I got my first real pin about 2 years ago when I visited Captain's Auctions. Like I bought a different arcade and I saw a real pinball and I was like, what the heck is this? This is a modern pinball machine. So I bought a Star Wars pinball machine, and yeah, the hobby just kind of took off from there because I started getting more appreciation for it.
Are you running out of space yet?
Oh yeah, like where I'm sitting right now is where my Godzilla pinball machine will be a week from now. So I'm getting another pinball machine that I ordered like 10 months ago, and it's finally showing up. But the other thing I like about pinball, and it's the reason why I like fighting games so much too, because a fighting game, if you think about it, every fighting game you've ever played, every match you've played against somebody else is different. You'll never play like the same match twice. Components of it, but from beginning to end, it's never the same game.
That's
same thing with
true.
Pinball, right? Yeah. Like same thing with pinball. Every single ball you plunge, it's a different game. It's like it's every single thing that you do, it's mechanical. So I think that aspect is really what drives me back and playing those particular types of games.
C-Mart says, which custom build gave you so many problems that you almost gave up on it? That's a good question.
Virtual pinball is also a very deep hobby, like the virtual pinball scene. So Arcade One Up at Games made the first commercial virtual pinball products that were widely available. Yeah, there was what was the other company called? Toy Shock.
Toy Shock. Yeah, I remember. You guys talking about Toy Shock.
Bobby Vu made like one of the first virtual pinball machines, a Toy Shock machine. And so there's a difference between just getting a screen in a box that looks like a virtual pinball machine and a DMD in the back glass, and then playing it and feeling like it's like virtual pinball. And like Bobby Vu, he has a Toy Shock that he modded as a Ghostbusters, and it looks beautiful. It's green lit and everything, has a 32-inch screen and everything like that. But on the inside of it, there's nothing. There's no like physical toys. There's no solenoids. There's nothing else that's really in there. And part of the virtual pinball hobby experience is the internals, the real pinball solenoids you can put in there to work electronically with everything to make it simulate. And so I got a full-size virtual pinball machine downstairs that I've been working on for the better half of like 6 months. And that made me want to rip my hair out because certain things wouldn't work right. I would like try to get it to work, plug it in, it wouldn't work. Because again, I'm not like a modder or like a coder, so I don't understand the coding side of things to understand how it's supposed to flip. I just have to magically trust that it'll work once I wire everything up completely correctly. And then I'm also a stickler for really clean wiring. So when you wire and mod something, a lot of people in the back, if you open up their cabinet, it's like a rat's nest. There's all these wires and stuff, but I like to clean my stuff up as I go along, and it takes a while to clean that up and work on it. So my virtual pinball machine downstairs that I've been working on for the last 6 months was absolutely the biggest bitch, because I had to put stuff together, take it out, put it back in, retry it. Like, and then that was just the hardware. I spent like 2 to 3 months just on hardware. And then I spent another month and a half on the software configuration, because every pinball table you have to download and get it working, get media. Like, virtual pinball is such a pain in the ass. Mystery Encoder, that's why you say you prefer 1UP. Plug and play, yes, but getting it with more toys, come on. Like 10 solenoids with feedback, with the shaker motor, with the chime. That's something that you can't replicate with the arcade one. I mean, it's pretty cool with 4 solenoids, but yeah, the rest of everything is really cool. Once you get everything working, it's a really fun experience.
The more I'm sitting here listening to you talk about it, and
super nerdy.
about all the nerd, all the great nerd stuff. And
you have no idea what I'm talking about.
Solenoids and I'm excited. The more I'm listening to you, the more I'm sitting here thinking. It's just like I'm fascinated and captivated the same way I was when I was talking to Mystery Encoder. Yeah. It's like I seriously think that you and Bobby and a couple other super talented people should create a home arcade company or of some type with home arcades and virtual pinball. And I mean, the ideas that you have, the talent behind the stuff that you've come up with, it would be genius. And it would probably take over the home arcade community completely, because especially, being a stickler for quality and wanting things to work, and wanting things to work the right way, and wanting your wiring to be clean, and wanting all your stuff to be, I mean,
a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. And yeah, I mean,
I've dabbled in doing a few commissions here and there for folks. Yeah, and it's probably like as far as, and I had seriously considered when I was at the height of doing several commissions a month, like, I did think at one point, like, could I turn this into
you got a waiting list like Bobby?
I did. I had a waiting list. I had to stop taking orders, and then I had to like triple my prices to just like make it worth my time. But then, yeah, at that point I was like, could I really turn this into a long-term career? And part of it was like, I enjoyed doing it, but at some point it did feel like work. Right. And then when your passion project and your hobby feels like work, then it's not fun anymore. The sad thing about it is that, like, because for folks that may not know, I help people with their Star Wars mods, and I love that mod to death. But it's been 2-3 years since I've done that mod and have offered it to people, but I've not had the time to dive into other modding projects. And people think like, what do you think about Batacera? What do you think about this? Like Emu Elec and all this other stuff. And I could dabble in it, but I don't have that expertise like I do in that particular controller. So I'm a type of person that once I find something that I'm really into, like, I'll go balls deep and just really be like knowledgeable about that particular subject and thing. And then for other things, like, it's hard to stay focused on so many different things.
I agree.
But that's where I'm at with the modding scene now. It's like, I feel like I built out my niche in Star Wars mods and like encoders and certain things. I can understand it from a basic standpoint, but I'll never be able to get as deep as I did with that. So to your point about offering stuff, it would be hard. I think it would be a hard business to, like, if anybody was starting something like a custom business. I think Retro Lizard's one guy in our community that went full-time making full-time arcades for people. It's tough. It's awesome though. You're building like passion projects for people. But those guys are building like full-size cabinets and shipping them freight to people, right? Like, I'm still drilling holes on my freaking carpet upstairs, right? Like, I have no real space to build things. That's where Bobby Vu comes in, right? So yeah, at one point we did have a good tandem where he would do all the hardware stuff, I would do some software stuff. But yeah, those are some good times. I miss those days when things are a little bit simpler.
So you're not currently working on anything now that is
with Bobby?
Yeah, is there anything that you and Bobby are currently working on that's
yeah,
you could talk about it a little bit, or is it?
Yeah, I mean, I'll put Bobby on the spot. I gave him some freaking aliens guns like a year and a half ago with some really cool this plastic molded thing. You remember the game Aliens? Aliens Extermination, right?
Yeah.
Those giant like rail guns that people have been seeing. So there's a couple people that made full-on gun carts, right? But they just made their own pedestal cart and then put the gun on top of it. But there was like $99 from AliExpress, the real molded plastic cover from Aliens Extermination and the two guns. And I said, Bobby, you could build a badass pedestal using this as a base. Here you go. And then once you build it, I will configure everything else. And so I said, Bobby, do this. But he has like a million projects, right?
Of course. Yeah.
And so, but I was like, you've seen Brad, Brad Diedrichs. Brad D is made one of the first gun carts for Aliens. And that's really cool. But I think Bobby could make it better. And that would be a fun project to finish up, was doing a real railgun shooter. Because light guns are one thing. That's what I learned too, by the way, right? Light guns are light guns, but the old T2 guns or anything that's mounted, those aren't light guns. Those are like what we call rail guns, because they have pots in the inside.
And those are actually configured to work with the hardware in a different way than light guns, right? Because light guns go off of the monitor, don't they? More so than the actual game
This
itself.
Is just an analog joystick, essentially. And so it just has a cursor on the screen. And that's, all modern light guns, by the way, right, have a cursor on the screen because they have to use an LCD. So no modern light guns, by the way, you'll never see one without like not having a cursor on the screen anymore, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I wanted to build, I have my light gun point blank cabinet, but I was like, I really want a mounted cabinet of guns, but I literally have no more space. So I have that project at his house. I also, by the way, Billy Wright is another modder in the community that started offering Star Wars cockpits to people.
Oh, wow.
So people wanted to, like, at one point, people were obsessed with building their own Star Wars cockpit after the Retro Recipes guy made one, Perry Fractic. Did you ever see that?
Yeah, I did.
And so he inspired.
It was really cool. I can say this. I know people were inspired. I wasn't. I looked at it and I said, that looks cool, but it looks cool. But what did you get to that point where you wanted to build a cockpit yourself?
I did. I'm a Star Wars guy. I want a freaking cockpit, right? And so I finally contacted Billy to build me a cockpit. And so I have it. But Bobby, being Bobby, was like, hey, ship it to me first so I can make a copy of it first before I give it to you. So I've had it shipped to Bobby's house, and it's sitting in his garage, and it's been there for, I want to say, almost a year now. And I'm leaving it there because I have no space to put it here. Before I was going to buy the pinball machines, I was like, all right, if I plan it out well, I can have this row of arcades here. Where I'm sitting right now could be where the cockpit is. I also want to build a Star Wars battle pod right here. And then it's like, I'm done. I have
you and Bobby are going to mess around and build a Death Star cabinet.
We could have.
And have with the Sega Star Wars trilogy in there for, oh my God. I can already see it in my head.
I was so obsessed with making a Star Wars cockpit cabinet back in the day. I was like, there was dumb mods that I saw. Like, here's some pictures of like the dumbest mods I've ever seen, but were kind of like inspiring. Somebody took the arcade 1-up Gen 1 style cabinets, right? Because they had a bunch of them, and then took off the sides and then just stuck them on the side of a chair, but as like on a riser, and then made a little cover. So you had an arcade 1-up in front of you, riser, like sides of an arcade 1-up here that you put on and be like, I'm sitting in a cockpit, how cool. And I was like, oh my God, I could really build my own cockpit. And like, I started making one out of cardboard, and I was like, I'm going to use this design. So I was always obsessed with trying to make one. But yeah, I think we've come a long way now where people can just go to a CNC machine and build their own. So that's been pretty cool to be able to do it. So someday maybe it'll happen, but I'm really out of space. I have to downsize.
Okay. So and in that downsizing, have you already decided what cabinets in your collection are going to go?
Oh, I don't. I mean, I've already gotten rid of some big projects, right? Like I got rid of my big Buck Hunter. That was really fun, but I never had nostalgia for Buck Hunter. I only had YouTube nostalgia for it because that's what introduced the world to Mrs. Kongs R Us. And I have video memories of that now. I don't have to physically have it.
Well, my favorite Mrs. Kongs R Us moment was when she broke your Tron cabinet.
Oh yeah, it's still broken, by the way, so I never fixed it. Like, she signed the back of it that says this was broken by Mrs. Kongs R Us #divorce court. So I was like, now it's, if I ever sell it, you'll have a broken G panel inside of the Tron cabinet too. Yeah, it was a fun time.
But that's another cabinet though, man. That is the Tron cabinet. Like, is that a cabinet that you play a lot, or is it just for the visual aesthetic? Because I always looked. That's how I always saw the Tron cabinet, as people are buying it not really to play it, but they buy it because they like how it looks.
Yeah,
and that's really my issue with a lot of these machines. Like,
I mean, I'll admit it. I'm a pretty shallow arcade owner. I like the way my cabs look more than I play them. Like, this row of cabinet looks pretty good, except for the Star Wars trilogy. I have Angel Otero Jr. is making me a new Star Wars trilogy marquee there. But that, with Dragon's Lair, Tron, the way the Mortal Kombat Big Blue and these cabs look next to each other, I just love the way these cabs look. I can just kind of sit here and look all day. So it's hard to get rid of some of them, thinking like, I like the way it looks. Tron was never one of those cabs that I actually grew up playing at all, because they didn't really have them in the arcades in the 90s back when I was going to arcades. But becoming an arcade fan, I started appreciating it more with the unique controls.
And artistically, it does look
beautiful.
Nice. It has a great looking aesthetic.
Yeah,
and it's one of those things that just to have it there, just as a talking piece. Oh, it's nice, but I wish it was.
But I modded the hell out of that thing too,
and I wish it was a refrigerator. You know, just get it.
Yeah, I still have to do a showcase video on it, because I modded the hell out of that thing too. So I put a Glenn spinner in it. There's a PC in it, a full screen. This has like extra bezel stuff, artwork on it, coin door, and a custom playlist that nobody has. So it's something that I've been wanting to showcase for a while, but I haven't gotten around to it.
Well, I'm sure you'll get around to it at some point. Let's see. Tim wants to know here what your thoughts are on the sequel, the Star Wars sequel trilogy, and the various television shows that have come out.
I personally enjoyed them for what they were. I remember going, I watched all of them like at midnight showings, like by myself. It was kind of like one of those things like, I want to go check this out by myself. So it was kind of a weird experience, because I didn't go to one of the ones with a bunch of people in it, so you don't get the crowd reactions for things. It was just kind of like me and the screen. I really dug the first one. I liked Force Awakens because it gave me like a lot of nostalgic feels and things. And the other two, I call them popcorn flicks, right? Like, they're not going to be like my Star Wars films, but like I watched it once and twice, like, you know, maybe with my kids, just to make sure that I've seen it and say I saw it. But like, I'm not like super fan or crazy about them. They're entertaining.
Okay, and Hollywood Polo is asking me, are you getting both Mystery Encoders SBC plug-in board and Lens IRK control panel?
The arcade control panel. The arcade.
I'm getting them for sure.
I did. I did support Glenn. I was debating back and forth about getting it or not, but like I love Glenn and I want to support him, because he's like, he sent me a bunch of stuff too for like in supporting me over the years. So yeah, I bought one just to support and mess around with. And then yes, Mr. Encoder to let me know that I was on a short list of people to be able to get the SBC board to test it out. And I think I've really found my role on Team Encoder. It's the idiot-proof person that tries to do the mod for everybody, so that you don't know, or so that you know not how to break it or whatnot. So I'm the idiot-proof tester.
Mr. Encoder wants to know how to play Truxton on his Tron.
Yeah, you put a PC in it, and then you download no, I'm just kidding. You know how to do that already, Mr. Encoder. I'm sure you
download the ROM.
Sure, you've already done it without a PC. All right, so what you do is you go to teamencoder.com and you type in the hidden URL that says mod my Tron. And then he's going to show you how to hack your Tron PCB so that you can use the stick and the spinner to play all sorts of classic games like Blastroids and what is it? I have there's a good playlist like Zaxxon. There's good stuff. I think you should do it, Mr. Encoder. Kong is going to show you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Mr. Encoder, this guy.
Mystery Encoder is awesome. I mean, I really, and that was the thing when I when I watched your video with Mystery Encoder and you showed us those special little secrets about the iArcade that opened up the door for all the controversy, I thought to myself, man, that was a very, very simple idea.
I'll say this thing about, go ahead. I'll say this about like playing extra modded games, because the flight stick on Tron is like a trigger, right? And so playing a traditional shoot 'em up like Raiden or Truxton, going like this with one hand, this is like a very tiring motion. So it's a terrible experience, Mystery Encoder, to play Truxton on Tron. So I'll say you that much.
It's but the whole concept of that whole thing that with the iArcade was so simple and so easy and just completely painless.
What he did? Oh yeah. So Mystery Encoder has always been about trying to make it more user friendly for the masses. The funny story, and I told Mystery Encoder this about why he is so popular. Like, why is it that people love doing the Mystery Encoder mods and things? It's because he's technical. He knows how to figure out shit really well. And like, I'm a glorified end user that can show people how it's done. But when people first modded their pinball machines and were able to use some of the scripts using PowerShell, and like they did XYZ, they're like, holy shit, this works. Like it made them feel like they were a hacker modder, even though like they were just following your guidelines. And so that experience is a thrill in itself. I remember the first time, I don't know if you ever modded your old consoles back in the day, but a PlayStation 1, I remember soldering my first mod chip in a PlayStation 1 so I can play burned CDs, and I was like, holy shit. I did that
with with my Sega Saturn.
Yeah, did you? Okay, nice.
I put a chip in that, and it's like great. It still works to this day.
The thrill of doing it, because like somebody made instructions for it, and you're like, holy shit, I followed instructions, I did this, I'm a fucking hacker, right? But so that's what people were able to do with these things, and it gives you that crazy feeling. But now he's even made it more simpler. Like he puts almost like a user interface where you just have to click 3 buttons, and it's gonna be that easy. So his goal is, even though the majority of people could figure some of those instructions, the handful of people that ask questions and the troubleshooting stuff has never been his forte, and he hates it. I know he does. But that's where James Cross comes in, because he's a guy that helps everybody out in the Facebook groups. There's a team of guys that really just wanted to help out people. And so if you're okay and not a dick and, you ask nicely, most people will help you out with the modding stuff.
It's such a great community, the way everybody is looking out for everybody. And the whole point is, you just want to be able to get the most out of these machines and get the most out of these projects. And it's just a beautiful thing. Right Retrocade says, will there be an install a home bar with a video poker machine for Mrs. Kong's R Us?
Home bar possibly someday, right? That could be like, she drinks enough where that could be a fun thing. But she's not into like gambling or video poker. That's not something that she would do. So yeah.
I mean, is there one title right now, Kong, that has not been released yet that you are just dying to have in your home arcade that you're not going to build yourself?
Console Fanboy actually kind of just put it into the chat right there. He said, like, when am I going to get Stun Runner? So Stun Runner is a title I've talked about, which is, do you know what that cabinet that is? Have you ever seen a Stun Runner cabinet?
I vaguely remember Stun Runner.
All right, Stun Runner Arcade. Let me just pull this up so you can see it. But it's from a cabinet standpoint, it's freaking gorgeous. It's a giant, like futuristic motorcycle thing, mabobber.
Okay.
So it's this thing. Do you reckon see it?
Yeah.
So this is a Stun Runner cabinet. It uses a yoke design. It's like a racing game that kind of looks like Road Blasters. You're shooting stuff.
I can't remember what arcade I was at where I saw this, but I did see this before.
So I love the look of this just from a futuristic look standpoint, and I would never build this. Although, like, I found several of them for sale locally. I could have had this in my house for $500, but I just couldn't figure out how to pick it up. And then the last Captain's auction had one for sale, but it had an LCD in it instead of a CRT, and it sold for $500. And I was like, because I can emulate this game and play it okay, but this would be a really fun game. I just love the look of this. And again, I go back to me being a shallow gamer. Like, this is just cool. I remember sitting on this. There's a lot of nostalgia for me playing this like back in the day. And I found a real one in operation in Orange County at this place called Mission Control. So there's a barcade in Orange County that has it. So I was like, if I ever want to play it, I can drive down to Orange County. So maybe that's what I'll do.
Maybe Arcade 1UP will make one.
Maybe a 3/4 scale one would be fun. I think so.
I mean, yeah. I mean, yeah. And I always my dream was, I had a dream one night that somebody made an arcade, a motorcycle arcade out of the movie, a video game out of the animated movie Akira.
Oh, nice. Oh, with the Akira bike?
Arcade out of Kaneda's bike.
Oh, that'd be badass.
And I was thinking about, and I've never, and I've only seen it in my dreams.
Yeah.
But I've always wondered if that would be something that would, we would get. And I've always wondered why we never got like an Akira arcade game back in the day. That would have been perfect with the bike. And
very iconic. The closest thing you'll get now is like the new Tron ride that you have to like sit in and do light cycles. So yeah, that's a good one.
So like, where are you now as far as the home arcade, these home arcade companies are concerned, like in terms of Arcade 1UP, At Games, iArcade, all these companies? Like, how are you? Because we're talking a lot about the projects and things that you're building, and you're obviously passionate about all of that. But where is your in terms of what these companies are doing? How do you feel now where things are? Because we just lost iArcade, and now we have, we've got At Games looking like they're stepping up their game maybe a little bit, and
for sure, big news,
which is going to make them more competitive to Arcade 1UP. But I've also seen a lot of YouTube videos from people talking about how now they want to downsize their 3/4 scale collections and just go directly to a multicade so that they can free up space, because space is at a premium now for a lot of people. So, I mean, where are you in this equation? Because obviously you sound like you need to start downsizing too a little bit.
You must be talking about that real arcade diva, Michael B. the Game Genie, because
I remember him talking about downsizing too. But the thing is,
he did. He got
Michael
rid of everything.
I had him on here for a late night Q&A, and one of the things I talked to Michael B about with him though was one of the things it's always bugged me about Michael B is he talks about things like that, and then he says, "Should I or shouldn't I?" And he almost always ends up getting
the whatever.
So there's no suspense.
Oh, he has issues. We all do. We all have hardcore issues buying the next new thing because we want it, like that want of desire. But he's done a good job of actually letting go a lot of stuff. He really only has a handful of stuff now. For me, I've dabbled in getting some of the full-size big arcades. So I actually have 3 full-size arcades in my garage right now that I really don't make content on it because they're in various shapes, and my arcade is my garage is a freaking mess because there's so many like boxes upon boxes of things on top of things. So I have a full-size sit-down virtual on machine. You remember that? Like, it's a 2-stick. I have a Star Wars pod racer that's not working correctly, and then a dual screen freaking Gunman War. So 3 arcades take up the entire wall of one of my garages, like where a car should be. And so I don't see myself like really going full boat into like real arcades. There's like too many things that are like tough about maintaining them, and I haven't even spent the time to jump in and fix those machines yet. All this stuff that's here, this is on my 2nd floor of my house, so there's no way I'm bringing those big ass things upstairs into this space to be able to replicate that. Like, that is just not physically going to happen. I had a hell of a time freaking bringing down I don't know if you saw Super Gamer News. I shared that I tried to bring my Legends pinball machine down the stairs, and it freaking broke, and like, because it's heavy now. And so I was sad about that. So I don't see myself going full out getting rid of things, but there are things that I'm looking at that are I mean, I'll just do a little quick pan and view. So you see my arcade here, but
Yeah,
my
it
floor is a
looks like
mess.
a real
I
arcade.
have I have a freaking Ridge Racer over here, a Pac-Man, another Star Wars that's being modded, all this stuff on the floor is stuff that I'm modding. So my arcade also is my workshop. And so there's a Turtles there. And so this is just the floor of all the crap that's behind me. And then I have my 2 real pinball machines here. And then those arcades on the wall. So that's the only space that I have in my house for arcades right now. And so I have to make some decisions soon. And where I'm sitting at right now is a desk that I put here temporarily, but it's turned into like my workstation. This desk and this setup is going to have to go next week because Godzilla will be here next Wednesday.
Godzilla's coming whether you're ready or not.
It's coming. And I didn't think it was going to be coming this soon. And I have to clean out all this shit. And I'm going to be spending the next 3 days cleaning and making stuff. So I don't know. I don't know what I'm gonna do.
I tell people all the time, it's the home arcade community for a reason. I don't begrudge people like Retro Ralph and people that have moved on to full size arcades. But if you're being realistic, who has the space for that?
So
that's why the 3/4 scale community is so popular, because we can all get these machines and fit them into our living space.
But if you think about the timeline of when, the 3/4 scale home arcade stuff, we all started at a space where we wanted 1 or 2 of these machines.
1 or 2.
And we figured out a way to make more space. And then new caps started coming out that looked, so we would like swap out the MK design for the next one. So the crest of like people filling up their arcade rooms with more stuff, with sales and new caps coming up, was really reaching its peak, I'd say about 1.5 years ago. Like 1.5 years ago, like new legacies and things like that. That was the peak where people were now like, I can get the cabs that I want to, different form factors. But now we're at this point in the home arcade space, right? Where space truly is the enemy of anybody who's been in this hobby for about 2 or 3 years. Like it truly is. Like you have to make the decision point now. And so even if they release new stuff, space is the biggest thing, unless you have like crazy unlimited amounts of space for stuff.
Unless you're like Jason's 3rd floor arcade, where it looks like that guy, his stuff looks like an arcade showroom. Where he just it's unbelievable. I'm like, dude, your unlimited space, that's awesome.
And or if you live in the Midwest and you have giant houses and basements and things, more power to you. But here in LA, things are very, very tight in terms of spaces and things like that. I'm fortunate for the place that I feel like I live in that I could even do this. I'm sitting in my old upstairs living room den that used to have couches and a TV, and one day I sold the couch and was like, bye, I'm gonna make space for some arcades, and it had a bookshelf full of DVDs that I got rid of in here too.
My dad came by my apartment not too long ago, and he joked, he kind of looked in my bathroom and he's like, I could think of one other place in your apartment where you could put another arcade. Take the toilet out of the bathroom. Take the bathtub out.
Put it. Somebody came up with the toilet cake, by the way.
You remember that? The toilet cake.
You straddle it backwards, and so you're facing the wall, like while you're doing it, playing. So that's what you got to do. Do what you got to do.
It's almost like the idea is, you use the 3/4 scale market as a gateway to get people into preserving real arcades. And you're talking about 300, 400 pound arcade machines. And so you got people renting and buying space, additional space, and putting add-ons to their houses so that they can put real arcades in there. And it's kind of just wow. It's
props to Killer Arcade Games in a shedcade, right? Like it was making a shed for stuff.
Making a shed. I couldn't believe when he did that, because I watched this video where he was, when he was just doing, showcasing the Killer Instinct that he made, and it's like 6 months later, he's got an add-on to his house and he's putting all this stuff, and it's like, wow, dude, that's quite a jump. And and going from just collecting to...
I will fix that virtual on first before I sell it. So one side, the pink side, doesn't work yet, but I will get it working. But I have some tough decisions to make soon. And so where I'm at with the hobby in general, it really comes down to space. you know, in the span of 1 week, I'm about to get 2 new pinball machines, which are now like the highest investment in my arcade, right? So I have real pinball machines. I had the Star Wars one, just got the Foo Fighters Premium, which is like a $9,600 machine. And then I got a Godzilla, which is also $9,600. So it's like almost 20 grand now that just came in. That's more expensive than any of these things. And to your, like, I find myself playing that more casually than going back to playing some nostalgic games. And I play the games while I'm modding the cabinets a lot. Like when I was doing my Dragon's Lair cabinet, like I spent a whole night playing that when I tried to get my upstairs thing. So I'll play this stuff occasionally, like Mortal Kombat they're saying I wasn't playing that, but when I modded it and put the screen in it, you know, I tested the games, I made sure they worked. But yeah, I'm not like playing it on.
I mean, the mod is what is the only thing that made that makes that Mortal Kombat arcade machine worth anything. If you're not, if you didn't mod it, there's no point in even having it because, you know, they messed it up. So again, it's modding makes it better, makes it playable. How do you, I mean,
I don't think there's any arcade in here that I have like completely stock.
And the only arcade I have that's completely stock is because I even did the mod to the Mortal Kombat 2 countercade to add games to that.
Oh, yeah.
The only arcade I have that's stock that's not modded in any way is the iArcade.
Oh, okay.
And that will change.
I modded my arcade with the gate switchers, but other than that, everything else has at least something.
I mean, you and well, technically, the iArcade was modded, but iArcade demodded all of our machines.
Yes.
So,
but we'll remod them very soon. I feel like in the next week or two, like this has really lit a fire under Mr. Encoder's ass. Like this, when he gets passionate about something, like he's gonna turn it out, and he turned it out quickly. Like the way he kind of pulled that together. Even the first, like he doesn't even call it a hack, right? Whatever it was to get those extra games. Like
that was just like an exploit.
But he did that in 24 hours.
And not only that, it was literally nothing. It was games that they just had unlisted. It wasn't like it was something that he put there. It's not like Mr. Encoder figured out a way to put Mortal Kombat, Killer Instinct, and Super Street Fighter 2 on the iArcade store. We were able to send those top tier games over to the iArcade. These were games that were already there, that they were just hidden.
Yeah. So, and funny enough, because I had made a very short tutorial on doing that.
I watched your tutorial.
But Michael had emailed me to ask me to take it down like the next day, because he said it was actually that it was causing more undue stress to him and the team. And I know there's some controversy over kind of them going back into machines and removing them and things, but you know, I probably think it was, you know, not a great move as like a parting gift, because it was, but it did showcase the vulnerabilities of the cabinet and, you know, what could have been happening like a while back that just was never exploited. So at the very least, I don't know, I think when I was talking to Mystery Encoder, I was like, who cares at this point, because they're going down, they're going under, but you know, looks like they're still pulling strings somewhere. There still feels like
there's only two reasons. There's only two reasons for that though. If it's an attachment, and this is a question that I have, and I don't know if you ever thought about this. Maybe you know more than me, but there's different types of bankruptcy for companies, and iArcade never disclosed what type of bankruptcy they did. They just said that they were going for bankruptcy. They probably had to tell the public something. So maybe, and this was my theory. My theory was maybe the reason why John got so upset and reacted the way he did to that was because they're in the process of restructuring. There is a restructuring you can do in a corporate bankruptcy that would allow them to at some point restructure with the assets that they have and then come back and try to rebuild. There is a way they could do that. So I thought about it. I'm like, why is he so upset? Like what you just pointed out. I mean, it was so your video for me felt like as close to official as it gets. Like there's certain YouTubers that when you guys put certain things out, and I'm including you in that group, when you guys put things out, I take it as almost like a certainty. It's like, this is something that's okay. This is something we could do. This is what's being promoted. This is what's, you know, what you guys are talking about. I think a lot of times, I think a lot of you guys underestimate your reach. I think a lot of you guys don't realize just how much of an impact you have on this community, because this community is not that big when you compare it to other, communities out there and other hobbies and things like that. So it's like when you have, Michael B talking about something, or you talking about something, or even Rexer talking about something, people are listening and people are paying attention to it. And anybody who's in that community who says they don't pay attention to this stuff is just being dishonest about it, because you do pay attention, because you want to know. So when you do a video about something and then I turn around and I see 19K Fox talk about the same subject, I understand that the reason why is because it's to get the message out to everyone so that they know what's going on. And when you did that mystery encoder thing, to me, it was just like, well, yeah, this is
it's ready to go.
This is as close to official as it gets, as if Michael and Jong were coming out themselves saying, hey, yeah, you guys can do this, have at it, go ahead and get your interstellar circus, it's there for you. I don't, so I don't look at it. So I was more shocked than anyone, well, at that point when I saw Jong's message, but I also thought about the whole bankruptcy thing, like, well, maybe they're doing a restructuring and it's not as bad, which is why they were able to be relatively cheery in their final stream, because I don't know if you noticed that, but they didn't look like they were really all that.
Well, Michael always has a smile on his face, so it's hard to see that guy ever get down. But I agree with you in some points that, like, maybe I don't think of myself that way still sometimes, right? Like
I don't know why. I mean, you've earned it. You're great. You're great. You're must see content. I mean, I don't know. Like for me, I don't know if it wasn't for, like you and Bobby Vu and a few others, I don't think that I would be in the hobby the way that I am. I definitely would not have tried my hand at modding stuff. I mean, I have an arcade right now that I'm trying to get. I have a little mini arcade right now that I'm trying to get the At Games ecosystem to run on. And the problem I'm having is that I can't get the At Games puck to recognize the control panel, the control deck. But I can get it up and running where it will, I do have it on there, but I just haven't been able to figure out how to get the control.
What encoder are you using? Are you using a generic one?
I was using, it's a generic encoder.
Yeah. So I would start there first. But anyways, but I think that's where, going back to covering mystery encoder, even like in the first pinball stuff, I get geeked out and excited about sharing and showing stuff. Like then caring about kind of its impacts and things. Because when I first did the mystery encoder pinner mod, like the story was I was in the Arcade 1UP beta tester group. And then from there, like they made comments about like, I can't believe people that are in the beta tester group are actually talking about this mod. And I'm like, is he talking about me? And then I messaged the main guy from Arcade 1UP that was running that group. And he was super pissed that I was doing coverage on the mystery coder mod when it was impacting the stuff. And so then I was like, oh, I guess there's a conflict of interest if I'm in this group and I'm doing this thing, even though I didn't take anything from the group and post it. It was all public, right? And I mean, and the same thing with the iArcade mod. Mystery Coder Encoder had already posted it on Reddit, Discord, and the Facebook group before I made my content. So I wasn't the originator. I know I'm not the originator of the stuff. I'm a news coverage guy.
But your friend, but see, this is the thing. You've talked to Mystery Encoder. I've talked to Mystery Encoder. Everybody loves Mystery Encoder at this point. And the thing is, the stuff that Mystery Encoder does only serves to sell more cabinets.
It does.
I can tell you right now, when that hack for those countercades came out,
everything sold out.
There were no more sales for those countercades. Those countercades all skyrocketed back to full price.
100% they helped pinball sales. 100% it helped. Like I think it helped many sales in the Infinity Game Table. This will make the iArcade definitely a more valuable
thing for sure. I think, because I think when it comes down to it, the hardware element of the iArcade is pretty great, and I think
Yeah.
people want to still be able to use that for what it is, and the ideas, some of the ideas that Mystery Encoder has. I'm sitting here like a kid at Christmas thinking, my God, this is going to make the iArcade one of those must-have machines in your home arcade, and you know, that's the whole thing. And then like I mentioned earlier about at games. I mean, how do you feel about at games right now? Where do you think that
I
they're
think
going to
it's cool that
become a
they're
competitor now?
well, I think it's cool that they're innovative for the market share that they
Yeah.
have, right? But they're never gonna reach the peak like masses with this news. Like nobody like publicly is gonna be like, oh my god, At Games has Killer Instinct. I'm gonna go buy an At Games cabinet, right? Like At Games does not sell nostalgia. They don't, because they don't have the look of whatever it is that you're remembering. They give you value. And if you're looking for like a value multicade, I think a lot of thanks about that. Like, so Fightcade, by the way, out of my my home arcade channel, right? My top video is my Fightcade tutorial video. So I'm a Fightcade channel.
I
I'm
learned
not a
from
home
you.
arcade channel.
I learned from you with Fightcade. I can honestly say that when I was having problems with Fightcade, I remember Console Fanboy telling me, you know, he was like, just go watch Kong's video and you'll get it right. And that's all I had to do. I watched your video. I watched your video once all the way through, and then I watched it a second time to make sure that I, you know, digested everything, you know, with the JSON files and all that. And I was like, okay, now I know exactly what I'm doing. And it was so easy. I mean, and that's what I mean when I say, you know, the influence that you guys have. There's certain stuff that you'll put out, you'll talk about. Bobby's the same way. Bobby will put out tutorials. He'll put out things like that too. And it'll be
Let's be real though. I love Bobby, but his tutorials are like 2 hours long. Him talking about like,
but they need to be sometimes, you know, they need to be sometimes. I mean,
Bobby's a great modder. He's a terrible YouTube tutorial guy. I'll say it to your face, Bobby. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh my God. It's just with you guys. I don't know. I'm just like, when it comes to, you know, learning and adapting and understanding that, hey, this is how we want to do it. And I love how you talk about it not being the most technical, and you're just trying to figure it out. And the fun is trying to figure it out. And I'm the same way. I love to figure these things out. You know, you know, and you get that satisfaction of, I did it. I figured it out. I got it working. Like when I get this At Games thing working the way I want it to work, I'll do a tutorial video. I'm gonna be like, yo, I did this. This is how I did this.
So you know why I did that tutorial video? Like, I think I've told this story a couple times. You know Kyo Daikin?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. So that guy, that I call him an asshat because he always calls me out. But we were at Bobby Vu's house one day playing the MVSX, and we played Marvel vs. Capcom, and he beat me in person. And the only reason why he beat me because that shaky ass machine rocks the hell, and like it doesn't really stay. And he's a big dude, so he's bumping me, and so he beats me one round. He doesn't even play like an FP3. Talks so much smack about like wanting to play again. And so the minute I discovered those JSON files was like the new way Fightcade works, I was like, holy shit, I gotta make a video on this. And like the next day I recorded that tutorial specifically for Kyo Daikin so that he can learn how to get on Fightcade, so we could have that freaking matchup. And did we ever do it on Fightcade? No, we went back to Bobby Vu's house,
and you couldn't have made it, and you know, you couldn't have made it more simple. It couldn't have been more easy, you know, at that point. But I mean, you know, shout out to Kyo Daikin. And I'm friends with Kyo Daikin. So I like Kyo Daikin. But I know what you mean. So you guys are playing the MVSX over at Bobby's house.
Yeah.
And was this before Bobby basically remade the MVSX in his image?
Yeah.
I mean, I remember that too, and that was pretty dope.
Yeah, I mean, I think it had his riser on it, but yeah, we played it in person. That machine is not meant for two people playing it. It's not meant for two grown adults to have a fighting game play against each other. I was like, oh, you know, it's funny because like a lot of all current fighters like Justin Wong, best fighting game person of all time, not used to playing against somebody on an arcade 1-up cabinet. I played against him, and like he was like, oh man, you button mash really hard, because when you're playing competitively with two people on these cabinets shake like shit. So they're really not meant for that. But yeah, that's what we played. And it was on the Hilo hack. I was like, this is a fun experience, but let's play on Fightcade. And then so we never got to do the Fightcade thing, but I'm so happy when the time that I did that. It was great for the home arcade community because it gave people kind of more options to like quickly play these games if they wanted to in a very, very easy way. And I think it's a game changer. So I remember when
Fightcade, you could put Fightcade in a cabinet if you wanted
to. So Fightcade used to be really complicated. Before JSON files, like how you had to get Fightcade working, you had to have all 8,000 ROMs ahead of time on your own in the right file format, in the right version of MAME to put into the folders, and then select the folders to be able to point them to the right directory. So the Fightcade setup old tutorials were like 30 minutes long because you had to not only like download everything, then put them in the right spaces. And so I had old Fightcade working for a long time, but those JSON files like changed everything. Like that just made it super, super, super simple. So I love that. I love things that become more accessible to the community. And that's like when I do live modding and everything like that, my goal is always to try to explain something and make it less scary to do, right? Like pinball machines and modding or anything else. Like I'll do it live, like Richard Della was saying, because like if I break shit, then it's because it can't handle it. But out of all the times I've ever done live modding or anything, I've rarely ever broken truly any of these machines. Like they can withstand a lot of like damage and messing around, touching the wires and all this stuff. So like people that are afraid to mod stuff, I would say, don't be as scared to use the hardware that you own and test it out and tinker, because that's when you're going to unlock some of the best stuff.
Yeah, you're never gonna figure it out. I always say this: you're never gonna figure it out unless you break something at least once. I've had a few things where I would tinker with a lot of computers, and I can tell you right now, I've probably broken about six computers in my time tinkering and trying to figure things out. With different types of memory and different types of things that different types of graphics cards and chips and things, and So yeah, I mean, it's all a process. It's all a learning experience, and it's great, and it's great to see. But see, now we live in a world where we have people like you and others that are good at showing us how things are done. And it totally reduces the error because you make the mistakes for us, and then once you've figured it out, then So I'm definitely looking forward to your next mystery encoder video.
That'll be coming soon. The SBC mod will be one of the next ones that comes out soon.
That's going to be great. I mean, you guys are so like, okay, so we know now about you being, all big in the space, home arcades. What are some of the arcade games in your collection that you play with Mrs. Kong's R Us?
Arcade wise, nothing. There's no arcade that she would come in here and play on her own, like unless I
but you guys together.
But the only thing that we play together is the pinball machines. Like today, for example, like she had like about in between break between, like she loves Saturday cleaning, and we just washed the cars and she was going to clean the kitten's bathroom. She's like, I have a couple of minutes. I was like, you want to play a game of pinball? She's like, sure. So then we loaded up the pinball machines and played it, and it's the nice thing, you can just load it up quickly, play a game, turn it off. So pinball has become one of the things that we like to do together. So even though it's an expensive hobby, it's become something that the kids even enjoy too. So I think that's been our main passion. It's also one of the
do your kids like the arcades?
They do, but they can't walk in here because it's a freaking mess. I can't walk in here because all my tools and things, and my goodness, my freaking cats. I'm so freaking pissed at my cats. So I have these like things. These wires used to be this long, and like I turn away for 1 second and the freaking cats like eat my wires all the time. So I have to be always be careful about all my modding stuff. But yeah, so that's why they can't get in here and play. But they like their modern games more. Like they like playing a handful of games. But I would say they're more into the pinball more than anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just like, it's such a fun thing to talk about it, and then to know that you've found a way to implement your family into some of it is really cool too. That's great. It's not just you, and that's pretty neat. That's pretty neat.
Someday I'll have it like ready where people can come over and play, but like it's consistent. Like I always have a project like on the floor somewhere. So my problem is that like not only am I short on space, I have like at least 10 different projects I'm working on at the same time. I have all these other commissions on the floor that I'm finishing up too. I don't have enough time in a day to finish this on top of my full-time job, working with the family, trying to do extracurricular stuff, enjoying my own stuff.
So you're finishing up that commission list.
I'm hoping to. Yeah, I had to retire for a good while, and I started coming back just in the short term because some people were getting the new cabs, and I wanted to help out. Plus, it also did help fund, some of the pinball stuff too, because that's a very expensive hobby. But yeah, hopefully I'll finish up some projects one at a time. And
are you going to be doing a showcase for Godzilla?
When I get it on Wednesday, I'll probably do another live unboxing for it. So that'll just be fun. It's just another way for me to kind of just document the experience as well. So I'm surprised how many people enjoy watching those things.
Oh yeah.
But it's like watching somebody open up a new toy, right? You get the feels of watching somebody else enjoy it at the same time. So I get it, and I enjoy doing it.
Yeah, people live vicariously through you.
Yeah, right.
Things up like, oh yeah, here we go.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that's how I was when I saw your first saw your Macross cabinet. So
yeah.
So I just wanted to, I guess my final question for the night, man, I just got to ask you, what do you got coming up?
That's a good question. Summer's getting busy. There's a lot of events that are happening pretty soon. So I guess my summer schedule, Comic-Con is coming up very soon around the corner. And so that's the end of July, I think starting the 20th through the 22nd, I think. Stern will be announcing their next pinball machine line. The rumor is that's going to be Venom, so that'll be kind of a cool arcade thingy to see there. And I know you're a comics fan too, so I've gone to Comic-Con almost every year since 2005, 2006. So I used to go and enjoy getting exclusives. I'm a big Transformers fan, and I would always be at the Hasbro Mattel booth, trying to get free stuff and all this other stuff. But now I'm less about the stuff and just enjoying the experience of just being there. So that'll be fun. So I'll be doing some Comic-Con coverage. In fact, little known surprise, might have a special guest flying in from the home arcade community joining me at Comic-Con too. So that might be
that'll be fun. Awesome.
Might be hanging out together a little bit. Some more to come on that. I haven't thought about it yet, but I might have some plans for maybe going to Evo again. Evo's in the beginning part of August. I enjoy going to the events and doing some coverage, and I think part of my journey with arcade went up and what I've been able to do the last couple of years, I think it started with the Super Bowl event with Shaq's Funhouse.
Yeah,
I love going to stuff.
That was that seemed like that was the most disappointing event you ever did.
With the Shaq one.
Yeah. To be honest,
it was an expensive date
because everybody was expecting NFL Blitz at that time.
Yeah. I mean, people were expecting something else, but so I think it started with that. But I'm just saying, I love bringing events like that to the community and sharing, being out at those things. So it started with that. It started with the sale that we did and going to Comic-Con and going to Evo and things like that. As much as that brought me, some connections closer to the company to be able to go to those events and things, it was also a way, if nobody was there covering it, the general community would never know what happens at those activations of those things, right? It's kind of sad to have those things happen and not have any coverage at there. So I think anytime there's events happen in the home arcade space, there should always be somebody invited to at least cover it or put it out there more. So I might go to Evo. Then there's the Cleveland Gaming Classic that's happening in September too. So those are all big things that are happening. And I would say, I really hope that we could do another sale type event like we did last year for the Red Cross sale with Arcade One Up. I've actually messaged John to see if that's something that they could do again, because it happened right around this time last year. July 9th was the year that the date that we did it last year. And I thought that event did so much for the community. Not only was it good deals for several people that got some of the good deals, but the positive community sentiment that event brought to them versus what's happening now and other things. Like they need more of those
Well,
things that
it
help.
was like an arcade one-up telethon.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
sort of reminded me, because you guys, you were streaming all day. So it was, you go from one streamer to the next, and you kind of have, and every streamer had something different that they were presenting. So it it was, in that regard, in terms of bringing the community together, I agree with you 100%.
There's never been an event where every streamer at that event had almost 1,000 concurrent people watching. Like never in the history of anybody's individual shows, group shows, have there ever been that many people watching, wanting to get a deal for something.
Oh yeah, the level of promotion for Arcade One-Up was off the chain. I don't think they've ever had it that big.
But if their main goal was only selling product, like they got rid of stuff in their warehouse, yes, they could have did that, and it was definitely a shit show for the first time doing it in terms of how they did it with the online ordering system and the invoices and everything. Like, all that could have been fixed, yes, but like we turned it into something that would have only been available for LA locals, right? That was the original goal. Doing a warehouse sale for the local people is normally how things work. You bring a certain amount of inventory, you slash the sale, everybody gets a good deal, everybody walks away. The fact that we tried to make it available for the country, but logistics wise, it could have been done better, but it's never been done in the history, right? Nobody does a warehouse sale and then at the same time try to release those same products for everybody around the country. So the amount of people that were able to get in and participate, like the secondary positive effects of that, it was probably like one of the highest times before we got into the Marvel vs. Capcom 2 and Blitz kind of issues for those cab releases, right? Like that and the Chicago trip, it was just like this momentum builder. So if I was gonna do more things, because I did message John, like if we did something like that, like I want to go back to doing more community events like that. Like I'd love to bring more.
Well, I hope you guys do another. I hope you guys do another Chicago trip.
We're gonna be all in Cleveland in September, so that'll be the next big one where all of us are gonna be in a house together. So we, all of us have committed. We're gonna be in a big old Airbnb house, and so there'll be more content to kind of just have fun, whatever it is that we're covering.
Arcade One-Up housemates.
home arcade
arcade housemates.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, but we're talking about, instead of doing that, we're gonna turn it into like just old school nostalgic stuff. We're gonna build a American Gladiators course and then have everybody just go on joust with each other. That'll go to town.
That sounds like a lot of fun. Yeah, man. Wow. Well, you know what, B Kong, I do want to thank you so much for being here with me tonight. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to come chat with me for late night Q&A. This has been episode 80. Man, it's always exciting, man. I always am happy when I get a chance to talk to you, man, because you're one of the good ones. I love your content. Keep up the great work, man. You guys do great work, and it's awesome. So
no, I appreciate the opportunity to come chat. And you talked about Macross, you talked about mounting, so I feel like I could talk a lot about things once I get really into it. And hope it wasn't too geeky for the chat though.
Oh no, definitely awesome. Well, I enjoyed it. It was amazing. So I want to thank everybody in the chat for being here for late night Q&A with ZodWriter featuring Kongs R Us. This has been episode 80. Episode 81 will be happening soon. I'm probably going to have somebody else on from the home arcade community. I'm going to try to get as many prominent home arcade YouTubers as possible. I did ask a couple of people, and now I'm just trying to work the dates out. The upcoming one that you guys are all waiting for, the one with Sosa, has been postponed. Sosa's got some things he's got to work out, and once he's worked those things out, he'll come back to YouTube, and we'll be able to do the late night Q&A. So be looking out for that. Thank you again, B Kong. It's been great. And thank you, chat. Good night.
Good night. Thanks.